Every night, no matter the weather, something walks down our street, whistling softly. You can only hear it if you're in the living room or kitchen when it passes by, and it always starts at exactly 3:03 a.m. The sound begins faint, somewhere near the beginning of the lane, close to the old Myers house. We live about midway down the street, so the whistling fades away as it heads toward the cul-de-sac. When I was younger, my brother Ethan and I would sneak into the kitchen some nights, just to listen. Mom and Dad didn't like us doing that, and we'd get in serious trouble if they caught us. But they were never too hard on us, as long as we stuck to the one big rule: don't try to look at whatever is whistling. We live in a strange but pleasant neighborhood. I've been here since I was 6, and I love it. The houses are small but well kept, and there are a lot of kids my age. I just turned 13 last month. My friends and I have always roamed around the neighborhood, playing foursquare, going from one backyard to the next, or riding our bikes in the summer. This place feels safe. It's a good place to grow up, except for 2 strange things: the night whistling and the unusual luck. The whistling never bothered me much. I couldn't hear it from my bedroom, only in the kitchen or living room, but Mom and Dad don't like talking about it, so I've stopped asking. My dad's a solid guy, always calm. He's got an accent since he grew up in a different country, somewhere in the islands. As he calls it, he never really gets rattled, except when the whistler comes up. That's when his voice gets faster, and his usually steady hands fidget. He tells us to not think about it too much, and to remember the one rule: never try to see the whistler. Not that we could look even if we wanted to. Every window in our house has heavy canvas shutters that my dad locks every night. These thick, old-fashioned shutters have small locks, the kind you'd find on a diary. Dad keeps the key in his room. He checks those windows religiously before bed. I'm not sure what Mom thinks about the whistler. I've caught her sitting quietly in the living room a few times when the sound starts. She listens but never moves. I don't ask her about it anymore. The whistler always follows the same tune. It's almost cheerful. Da-da-da-da-da-dum. Da-da-da-da-da-dum. Remember how I said there were 2 strange things in our neighborhood? The second is that everyone here seems unusually lucky. It's small stuff: winning raffles, finding money in old jackets, or hearing good news out of nowhere. The gardens always bloom brighter. There's no crime, and the weather's nearly perfect. My mom calls it 1,000 little blessings. We moved here when I was little because of my younger sister, Lucy. She was born with a serious lung problem and spent the first few months of her life in the hospital. My parents thought this neighborhood would be a good place to be close to the doctors. But something happened after we moved here. Lucy started getting better. Fast. The doctors were confused, but we knew. It was just another one of the many blessings that came with living here. Still, for every little miracle that happens in this neighborhood, now and then, something bad happens, but it only happens if someone tries to see the whistler. When new families move in, the welcoming committee visits. They bring over a casserole and a manila folder. The committee is friendly, but after the small talk, they ask to speak with the adults in private. I heard the same speech when we moved in. The whistling is harmless, as long as you don't try to see what's making it. My mom was skeptical at first, even angry, thinking it was some local prank. But my dad believed. He grew up with strange stories like this. After the committee left, he went straight to the hardware store and installed the shutters on every window. That first night, I snuck out of bed at 3 a.m. to see what would happen. My dad was already in the living room, holding Lucy. He just shushed me and patted the couch next to him. So we waited. At 3:03 a.m., the whistling started. Da-da-da-da-da-dum. Da-da-da-da-da-dum. It passed, just like the neighbors said it would. And after that, the whistling became a nightly thing. We never look. We enjoy our little blessings, and Lucy grows stronger every day. But not everyone listens to the warnings. A few months ago, a new family moved into the house next door. The previous owner, Mrs. Loring, passed away at 102, and the house had been empty for a while. The new neighbors, the Quinns, seemed nice enough. They listened to the welcoming committee, and from what we saw, they followed the rules. They even locked their shutters at night, just like we do. Their son, Colin, was a year younger than me. One weekend, his parents had to leave town, and he stayed with us. As soon as the adults left, Colin started asking about the whistler. "Do you know who it is? The one that whistles every night?" My sister Lucy and I exchanged a look. "We don't talk about it," I told him. "I bet it's that weird guy who lives in the red house," Colin said, smirking. Lucy frowned. "Mr. Benson, no way." Colin shrugged. "Or maybe it's something worse." "We don't talk about it," I repeated. Colin just grinned. Later that night, after my parents locked the shutters and went to bed, Colin got up. I knew something was wrong when I saw him standing by the window in the living room. "What are you doing?" I hissed. He held up a small key. "Your dad doesn't hide the key to the shutters." I froze. I knew he was right. My dad hadn't hidden the key in years. Colin walked over to the window and started unlocking the shutters. "No," I whispered, panicked. But he didn't stop. The whistling was getting louder now. It was right outside. Colin pulled the blind open. The whistling stopped. Lucy and I didn't move. I squeezed my eyes shut, holding my breath, praying Colin hadn't seen it. But then he let out a soft cry. Barely a whisper. When I opened my eyes, Colin was standing still, staring at the window. He looked broken. He whimpered, backing away from the window, his face drained of all color. I slammed the blinds shut. It was too late. The tapping started. A soft knock at the front door, then the back door, and then all the windows. Tap, tap, tap. It went on all night. My parents held us close, refusing to open the door. The next morning, Colin's parents came to pick him up. He didn't speak a word. His family moved out by the end of the week. I've seen what happens to people who break the rule. Colin and his family looked hollow, like all the light had drained out of them. It was as if they had been marked by something dark. We still hear the whistling every night at 3:03, but we never, ever look.